have passed by the House, or is there a new version?
So we are live and Senate Health and Welfare is back and what do we have, if any, do we have any change to 847 at this point?
You do.
We
Why
have
don't
a-
you refresh? Because I think I pulled it up from the website. At 1.1, is that there?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's there now.
okay,
Is
great.
1.1 there?
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's it.
I sent it.
So let's just look at what the new spots are.
Great.
Yep.
Good morning again. Katie McGlynn, Office of Legislative Counsel. Okay, so there is our document. When you were last here, you took some testimony. Specifically, the Department of Health had some recommendations. There's a group of people that had been working on the bill that was sort of working to fine tune language. So the changes and the draft are highlighted and they sort of represent what was discussed during that conversation. So the first thing that was discussed was changing the term recovery support specialist to peer recovery support specialist. So that change has been made throughout. Well, these changes are going until we get to something substantive. There we go. So we're in, right now we're in section 4. If you remember, there's a new title and a new chapter in Title 26 created, and this is the definition section. And the Department of Health suggested adding a code of ethics for certified peer recovery support specialists, so that it's more parallel to the code of ethics that would be put in place for certified peer support providers. So that language is there and it tracks subdivision 3. So it's Department of Health versus mental health.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Next, to account for the fact that you've added a code of ethics for certified peer recovery support specialist, I integrated that into subdivision 9 so that it is again parallel with what was in subdivision 8 for peer support specialists providers. So in 9, it would read practice of recovery support services means the provision of recovery support services in a manner consistent with the code of ethics for certified peer recovery support specialists. And next we get to subdivision 10. This was the definition of recovery support services, and this is where the committee spent a lot of time in conversation. Specifically, sort of the language highlighted beginning on line 13 was the conversation of who is somebody who can fill this role and how are we defining peer? Is a peer the person with the lived experience? Or is it a person adjacent to the person with the personal lived experience?
I think this works.
Okay. Okay.
So why don't you just read it out for us?
Sure, I'll start at the top. The recovery support services means a set of culturally competent, non-clinical, evidence-based activities provided consistent with the code of ethics for certified peer recovery support specialists. I'm sorry, I'm getting a lot of things from another committee. I just need to, it is a wild day. Okay, this does not need to be addressed now. I'm so sorry. It's okay. I thought there was an emergency. There's no emergency. Okay. Recovery support services means a set of culturally competent, non-clinical, evidence-based activities provided consistent with the code of ethics for certified peer recovery support specialists and coordinated through a written individualized recovery plan of care that documents a substance use disorder and reflects the need and preferences of the individual in achieving the specific individualized measurable goals specified in the plan. Recovery support services are provided in a mutual relationship between an individual with lived experience of either recovery from a substance use disorder or having a close relationship with an individual in recovery from a substance use disorder, and include a range of social and other services that facilitate recovery from substance use disorder, support health and wellness, and link individuals with service providers and other supports known to improve quality of life for persons and their families in and seeking recovery from substance use. and then the sentence about excluding it from psychotherapy.
It's good.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And then we have the word peer added throughout. For recovery support specialist. Is there any others? Yes, there we go. This was the conversation about background checks. And that the registry checks will be, they must be passed. The applicant has to pass a registry check. But a criminal background check may not be required in the rules, and it's sort of. So this language says that the person has to submit evidence satisfactory to the director that the applicant has passed registry checks required in rule and any criminal background checks that may be required in rule. So I hope that. Go ahead.
Good.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this is eligibility and
Mhm,
then we're talking about registry checks, become eligible.
mhm.
Where are the registry check criteria? What is the, how do they get into the registry?
That's a better question for OPR. I don't think I can answer that.
The Office of Professional Regulation will be developing the rules and will be providing any certification program. So we're asking them to do that based on their expertise.
And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Katie, that registry means like that, like a sex offender registry or like that kind of registry. You check to see if somebody is on that registry.
And that is my assumption, but I
Yeah.
feel
That's up
comfortable
to
that.
OPR.
Can we highlight it to ask?
Yeah.
We can ask OPR that question.
Yeah.
Good question.
And that those would be required to check those kinds of registries to make sure somebody is not on one of those registries, but then criminal background check is,
Whether it's
would be
there.
dealt with in rule if it's required.
So, but the registry checks can also be required in rule or not. So they're both in rule. So notice that. So we'll ask OPR for response on that. Are you gonna
Yeah,
do that?
I will email
Okay.
Lauren.
All right.
Unless she's listening and wants to email you first. Okay, so that is the language that we came up with in that. I said we, I really should say I, the
Yes.
group sort of
We
like,
get it.
I wrote notes
There was
based on what everyone
discussion.
said.
There was
I don't want to
discussion.
give the impression that I was coordinating with one or two people. I brought my notes back to my office and I put it together based on what was in my notes.
We get it.
Um,
I get
okay. Peer, is added throughout. And then we're updating the name of the bill to be peer recovery support specialist, so it's all highlighted, but the only change there is you're adding peer before recovery support specialist to the title.
Oh, that's it.
it. This is great. So,
Yeah.
questions? We're feeling good about this, Penny, everything here, but we need to have that question answered from OPR on the registry and we'll making criminal background checks. But, so.
Yeah, it's like, this came to us in pretty good shape.
My suggestion is that what we have on Tuesday, I think we have some stuff on Tuesday, but we might be able to come back to this on Tuesday, should we get a response from OPR, but no later than Wednesday. We can look at the bill, with any further discussion and possible vote. Just an FYI, I think that makes sense.
So I did
Okay.
send an email out requesting to reschedule
Oh, good.
Representative McGuire because he's on the floor now.
Yes, he
He's not able
is.
to provide this.
Do you want him to still do that? Because we can do that. So what I need though is a specific time. We can't keep putting it
I'll
off.
let, correct, I'll let Kiki arrange.
Yeah.
Get with him, kind of.
Yeah,
helping out
that's-
here.
That's what we can do, because then we can fit it into the schedule. That's good.
That's really good.
Thank you, Katie. All right, so we'll do that. We'll try to get the last bit of testimony, see how it fits in, and then we'll see where we go from there.